Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Confident Parenting Podcast. If this is your first time seeing me, hello. My name is Julie. I am an occupational therapist and a mom of 3 young kids, and I want to help you feel more confident in your parenting. I believe more than ever that moms are going to be part of a pivotal solution to this crazy world that we find ourselves in. And it starts in the home. It starts with you being the greatest influence over your kids. But how can you do that if you don't have the tools, if you don't feel confident in yourself? So I'm on a mission to support moms and parents. I do this through group coaching, individual coaching, online, so that you can have this information and introspection at your fingertips. And I really hope that any of the topics that I talk about spark something in you if they are what you need to hear in the moment. So today we're going to be talking about when you need to pivot as a mom. So I've had a few clients lately that have been feeling very stuck. They have been going through the motions of their lives. Let me know if this is you. So they went to school, then they went to college, they got a degree, they became a something. They just kept going without thinking. They stayed on that train of the do, the hustle, the 9 to 5, working for the man, just getting from one step to the next, never pausing to really examine, like, what do they actually want? Like, we fill our minds with busyness to such a degree that we don't have time to think. We don't have energy, and it's an escape route for our busy brains that are trying to tell us things. Our intuition and our gut is trying to get the information that's deep down into our consciousness, but it can't because we've filled it up with so many other things. And so typically what happens is they do all of this, become successful, and then they partner up, they get married somehow along the way, and they decide to have a baby, and that changes everything. You think you know what it's like. You even think you know what it's going to be like when you're pregnant with that first child, and then that baby comes out. I know for me, I was in absolute denial. I was like, it's going to be fine. I'm going to put my child in some kind of daycare situation, nanny maybe, and I'm going to go back to work full time like nothing has changed. And boy, was I wrong. So that could be you, where you're in the situation now. Perhaps you have young kids, and you're really examining, like, what's next for you? Why do you not feel fulfilled? Like, you have everything that you dreamed of. You have an education, you might have some kind of career, you have this beautiful family, and yet as a mom, you don't feel great. Like, you don't feel happy, and there's like nothing objectively wrong with you per se. Like, you don't have a severe illness or something, you're not sick, but you don't feel satisfied with your life. And look, there could be many reasons why you feel this kind of malaise. Always with my clients, I go back to things like, how are you sleeping? How are you eating? Are you moving at all? Are you exercising or getting fresh air? How is your loneliness factor, like your socialization? So many of us are at home these days without many friends nearby. And so that can be a massive factor too, where you just like don't feel joyful, you know? So you're looking at all of these things, we discuss all of this, and then we get to the point of like, what am I going to do with my life? You know, I can't go back to how I was working before. I know this was my experience. I couldn't go back to that hustle, that sort of 9 to 5, leaving my kids for someone else to look after them, and feeling like I was not the biggest influence on their childhood and shaping their minds and subconscious and all the things. And just feeling this incredible, crippling mom guilt. It took me so long to finally break free of that. And I still miss it sometimes. You know, I miss the identity that it gave me. And I think it's important to honor that because two things can be true. But I really had to choose my path based on my values. And that's where this pivotal point comes in. If you're in a situation now where you're like, what next? I want to have some kind of career or maybe income bringing opportunity, but I kind of want my cake and eat it. You know, I also want to be there for my family. I want to be able to pick my kids up from school every day, take them to school, be present in their lives, be very involved with what's going on. How do I do that? So for me, the process that I take my clients through is value system. And I don't think a lot of people really know what that means. I know I didn't until a few years ago when I had to kind of Google, like, what is a value? And the way that I interpret it is, it's kind of like a combination of what you prioritize, what you like, what you believe in, it could be. If you Google values, examples of values, you will get a very long list, like over 100 ideas of what a value can be. So I will just give you some that come to my mind when I think about values and things that are important to me. For example, freedom. So perhaps you can interpret that in many different ways, but for me, that would be maybe working for myself, not working for the man. Not being told where to be, when, for how long, when to take a break. What am I supposed to work on? Who am I supposed to see? Not having the autonomy, the choice, the control, the freedom. Perhaps it's freedom to move to a different country or move to a different city or work from anywhere. Freedom could mean many different things to many different people. Just being free of maybe being in your family where you always are feeling like you're being told. I think you can really interpret it as broadly as you want. Personal responsibility, that is a big value of mine. I don't always get it right, but I really try hard to do what I say. Sometimes to a fault, where I'm like, if I sign up, this is a silly example, but if I sign up for an exercise class, like this happened today, I signed up for a yoga class 2 or 3 days ago, and I'm not feeling like my best. I haven't been sleeping as well as I should be, and I feel like maybe I've got a bit of a cold. You probably can hear it. I'm so sorry. Life must go on. And so I canceled the class this morning, and I felt bad. So the personal responsibility, I think, is an inherent value that has been instilled in me since childhood, and I think that really does come from my family dynamic and my parents. And I think overall it's a good quality to have. Like, if I say I'm going to call you or text you back, I will do it unless something happens. And I have had blips in the road where my own insecurities or just feeling embarrassed about something has inhibited this ability for me to do what I would say I was going to do, and it makes me feel so terrible. So I try really hard. I've definitely learned that the hard way, to honor personal responsibility. So that's another value of mine. But other examples could be travel, could be health, could be relationships, could be creativity, all these things. Like anything that you are like, oh, I really value that thing. I really like the idea of that. That is family. It could be marriage. It could be having children. I mean, there's just so many things that are high values. Career for some, and maybe not, and less so for others. But you really need to know what your value system is if you're going to make a big change. So if you're in a situation where you're feeling stuck, it doesn't have to be you as a mom wanting to make choices now to serve your family and still have some kind of career or whatever, but it could be, you could be a student or a single person, but it just really helps guide you, because likely if you clicked on this video or if you're interested in this topic, you might not know what you want to do or be, and you don't know how that's going to look. And the reason why so many of us have done that predictable route is because that path has been forged to us before. We're in a little box. It's like how the world likes, it's like how our brains and the world like to operate. Like we like to be in little, like I feel like tied with a bow. Like we like the loop to close as human beings. So as I was saying to one of my clients recently, it's so socially acceptable typically to choose a profession, a career, a job that people understand. So do you want to be a doctor? Do you want to be a lawyer? Do you want to be an engineer, a nurse, a teacher? These are things that people understand, and you get society's blessing, and that feels good. But what happens when that is not enough? What happens when you want to go left and everybody's going right? How are you going to live with yourself at the end of the day? Because, you're sitting with yourself and your thoughts. You've been able to push those aside for such a long time. But what happens when that's not enough anymore? Like when you need to change? Because if you don't, it's like absolutely soul destroying. It's gut wrenching. You just can't live like this anymore. Change occurs when the pain of staying the same is worse than the pain of changing. We don't like to change as human beings. We like predictability and stability typically. And there are definitely going to be times in your life where you crave that a lot more than others. You might be more risky when you're unencumbered, single, 20-something. But as you get older, you have more responsibilities, a family, kids, whatever. You might not be as willing to take a risk. But you also know that some part of you will die if you don't take that risk and if you don't explore it. So looking at your values. So for me, I was in that neat little box. I was doing all the things, ticking the boxes. I looked great on paper. You know, when you go to a doctor's office or you go somewhere and they like ask you, like, what do you do for a living? And who is your employer? And all stuff. I was able to answer all those questions and that felt so good. Now when I go to a doctor's office, I'm like, what do I do for a living? Something that people don't really understand. Like mom coaching, you know, and I'm still an occupational therapist. Like I still do occupational therapy in some capacity, but it just doesn't look like that. I'm not really employed by someone in a complete capacity. I don't fit into a nice, neat little box, and that is dang uncomfortable, let me tell you. Anyway, we're not here to please other people. We're here to live our values with integrity. And so you need to list out some of those values. Maybe it's just 3, maybe it's just 5. If you're like the stay-at-home mom that made this big choice to move away from their job, and now you're at home and your kids are like not tiny babies anymore. Maybe they're growing up just a little bit, or you have some kind of childcare and you have some space now. You don't have a regular job, but you're also not with your kids 24/7. Perhaps they're in school or grandma, nanny, daycare, whatever you've decided for your family. You've gotten some help, which is great. Now what? I would recommend that you write down and think about your top 3 or 5 values, and then look at things that you love to do. Some of the advice that I wish I had listened to, because I'm sure it was out there, was to do something you love. Because you're going to be doing this potentially for many, many years or decades. And if you don't like your job and you're just white knuckling it for money, doing this for value metrics, I guess, that's not going to work. That's not sustainable. I sometimes think I made myself small and I chose a profession that has served me really well, but probably wasn't my first choice. And I made it work as best as I could. I really specialized within the profession in a way that would have been more aligned with my personality, I think. And you know what? Everything happens for a reason. And maybe I would have hated another choice that I made. And maybe we're just naturally designed to kind of do something for, say, 10 years and then choose something else, or 7 years, like a 7-year itch, but in a career kind of thing. And so who knows what would have happened? Hindsight is 2020. But if I could go back, and the things I will recommend to my children is I will help them look at things that they are really good at, but not just good at, that they enjoy. Just because you're good at something doesn't mean you should do it as a job. Like, you could do it for fun. And that's another thing. It's like you have to look at the things that you really love and enjoy. And some of those things are sacred. And some of those things you should not be trying to make into a career, because then you take away the magic from them. If you really love to bake, but you don't want to become a professional baker, right, as your job, because of all the other things attached to it when it becomes a job, when people are relying on you, when you have to pay the bills, when you have to wake up at 4 a.m. to bake enough bread for all the orders. If that's not what you want to enjoy the process of creating something that you eat, that professional baking might not be for you. You know, that might be your hobby that you hold close to your heart. And is that a value system? Probably not, but creativity is a value system. And if you take away the ways that you express yourself, your artistic creative expression, then you are neglecting that value of yours. Does that make sense? So I think that you need to look at your value system. You need to look at the things that you love doing, that you could do all day long. And then you need to really be sort of choosy about what you would like to go deeper in on, you know, what things you could explore. I feel like now, and I've had this conversation with a few people, the climate has changed so dramatically in terms of jobs and how you can provide value to people through the internet and social media, that honestly, it's scary, because some of the stuff we haven't done before, we haven't seen people in our own lives doing it successfully. But the world is infinite in that regard. Like, you really could do anything. I mean, you can film yourself doing videos and put it on the internet and make that into a career. I mean, thousands of people are doing it. You can film little TikTok or short videos of you doing something creative, something that's uniquely you, and get views and exposure and actually leverage that as almost like an online portfolio if that's something that you want to do. There's just so many options for us that didn't really exist before. You can connect with people in other countries. You can have a podcast. You could write a blog. You can do Substack. You can do so many different things. And here's the kicker though. Because it's unpredictable, because the beauty of it is that it's infinite, that also means that there's no set rules as to who makes someone successful. My personal opinion, if you're asking, maybe you're not, but if you are, is that as long as you don't give up, eventually something will happen. And it's very hard to stay positive in those moments because you don't know when it's going to be. And as human beings, we just want to control everything. We want to grip it on tightly. We want to know, okay, we're going to do this degree. It's going to be done in 4 years. And then we're going to go do a master's program. And then we're going to go get an internship. And then we're going to go and work in this firm. And like, we like all that predictability from that perspective, but it's soul crushing a lot of the time. I don't know how many people really love that path. They do it, but do they really love it? And if they're doing it successfully and they don't really love it, likely something else is driving them, like the need to provide for their families. And this is a stepping stone from one element to the next. But if you're in a situation where you maybe don't have to do that job, the soul crushing one, you're going to burn out so fast because you're not going to be able to do it anymore. The why is not strong enough to propel you to do something you don't like. So that's just the reality, I think. That is just the truth. So you've got your values, you've got the things that you like. You be super selective about which ones would actually be something that you would want to pursue, and you have to try. And you're probably going to fail. And it's probably not going to look like what you wanted. I have a YouTube channel. Is it millions of subscribers that I would want? No. Has it allowed me to meet people? Yes. Has it given me a creative outlet? Yes. For my voice to be heard in a small capacity. Does it give my coaching a face, like a portfolio? Yes. Have I made more money from coaching than YouTube? Absolutely. So things never really look the same as you might intend. I've always wanted to have a YouTube channel. I've had a few of them. I was on YouTube in 2011. I often reflect, like, how would my life have been different if I just kept on going? Perhaps I needed that time to grow, and being on the internet is not always for everyone either. So things can just take you to different spots. And if you try something new and it doesn't work out in the way you wanted it to, consider it as data, as practice, as information for what you can do next. Even if my YouTube channel never becomes successful in someone else's eyes, I learned how to speak on camera. I learned about audio equipment and making thumbnails and marketing and, uploading things and all kinds of stuff, that skills that I think will help me, or maybe it will help my kids, or who knows. It's just interesting to explore different paths and see where they go. I often think about, like, when you have this desire, when you enjoy something and it's uniquely yours, like I have a client that loves redecorating and renovating rooms and things like that. I am not as inclined to do that. I like to do other things, like make fermented foods or sew and cross stitch and things like that. We're all uniquely given these desires, and I feel like that's where you have to start. Like, what do I enjoy doing? And it could be lots of different things. And you start to explore that, and that's a crumb. And then you see if that leads to the next crumb, and then the next crumb, and then you gather information about yourself. And if you're the typical woman, mom listening to this, you probably have never given yourself the time, the space, like a personal sabbatical to just be and explore what you enjoy. Like, maybe you start doing exercise classes and all of a sudden you're like, I love this so much, I want to do this every single day, and I'm going to teach this to other people. I have a friend that did that. She has done multiple different things throughout her life, and it's always so inspiring. She's so good at many different things. Like, she is like an art. I think she started off as being exceptionally artistic. She's just creative. She could draw really well. But, we grew up in the same time where there was no internet where she could have showcased those skills. She turned that into cake decorating, where she makes the most incredible, exquisite cakes. But then it becomes difficult because it takes so much time and people aren't paying her for her time and expertise. Okay, now she's super into aerial silks, which is also kind of random. And she's become so good at it that she's teaching the classes now, like literally. So you just never know where life is going to take you. And she's also had lots of other jobs in between that. And she's a mom of 3 kids. So it's like, all these things are going concurrently, and we're all just trying to explore and figure out why we are here and who we are. And something else that I just want to say in closing this is that often we feel very lethargic. We feel like our energy is low. We don't know why, especially if you've had a baby and you've gone through those periods, those years of sleep deprivation, and now you're kind of feeling more kind of like you did before a baby, a little bit. Like, will you ever be the same? I don't think so. But you're feeling more normal. You're getting more consistent sleep, but you still feel like blah, like apathetic. Why? I think sometimes that has to do with the spiritual element of our souls, like the thought that if you don't have a sort of a purpose that's uniquely yours, like I want to say outside of motherhood. It's not like motherhood can't be your purpose, because I think it is for so many of us, but it can't be the only thing. Like, there are other things that will light up your soul of you as an individual. Like, if you took the family and the kids away, what would light you up? And having a purpose, often it's of serving other people, it's being involved with others, or creating. I do believe, like, we're human beings, we're here to create. We talk about being creations, and if you're religious, we talk about like God's creation. Like that terminology, I think, is very intentional. Human beings are the only ones that really create things in the way that we do in the animal kingdom, and so to deny that part of ourselves is like a fundamental flaw in the system. And so I think that's what leaves so many people feeling so bereft and depressed and just longing for something. So once you have that purpose, once you somehow find it, even just a glimmer of it, your energy will skyrocket, because it's like you have something to live for. And it's different when you're a mom and you're sleep deprived and you're like, I want my energy to skyrocket because I'm living for these people. You can't really live for other people, even your own beautiful, sweet little children. You can't really live for them. Like, you're not living their life for them. Just like you can't eat food for them. I mean, it's different if you're breastfeeding a baby. Yes, okay, fine. You're literally out eating and feeding them. But if they don't eat the food, if they don't drink the milk, there's nothing you can do about that necessarily. Like, they have to accept the food. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's that kind of concept. Like, you have to eat the creative food for your own soul, and you can't do that for anybody else. And once you kind of discover this, or even just uncover a little bit of this, one page in a book, you will feel so much better. You will feel so much more energized, and you'll feel like you are starting to uncover your purpose. And this is often where things kind of skyrocket into different directions, ricochet into different areas, where you're like, wow, this thing led me to this, and I met this person, we connected this, and we created this together. And nothing has to be forever either. You can do a project for a little bit, and then you can move on to something else. You can change your mind. But when you go back to your value system and you're like, okay, so I prioritize being with my kids, but I also want to feed my soul. How am I going to combine both of these things? I also prioritize health. How am I going to prioritize that? I prioritize nutrition and good food, and then also adventures and travel. How am I going to do this in some capacity to feed my spirit? So I don't know, we got a little deep over there. We got a little like introspective, esoterical, but I do think it's important for us to examine these questions, because as moms, we don't spend enough time doing this. We just don't allow ourselves to go there, because we feel like it's so depressing if we don't have the answers. But I'm telling you, there are ways to get answers. It doesn't happen always in the timing that you want. It can take years. I am an example of that. There are so many times I've tried creative projects and then had to take a step back, then go back to it, then feel more motivated, then go back to it. Have to push myself to do things sometimes that I don't want to do, but I always feel better kind of afterwards. So I hope this leads you to some level of motivation where you feel like you can start exploring who you are, and let me know in the comments if anything has sparked for you, because these are conversations I'm having with clients all the time. So I know that this is not just a me thing. This is definitely a universal mom thing. And remember what I said at the beginning of this video, the world is in a dark place, and as moms, we need to be here, running our families in a kind and respectful and compassionate way, because the people that are committing heinous things in this world are probably not growing up in these loving homes. So I want to be here to support you, and so you can support your families, and we can all have a better world for our children. Okay, enough. I'm getting off my soapbox now, which is a hilarious analogy. Anyway, it's been great hanging out with you. Thank you so so much for being here. Make sure you subscribe down below and give this video a like so we can share this message, positivity, with more people, because we need to. And I will see you in my next video. Bye.